All right, everybody. Good afternoon. Happy Friday. What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. The Seattle Seahawks are reporting into the VMAC, and training camp starts tomorrow. And I wanted to talk about a few different things. Well, mostly one thing, but I want to take a look at this article that Brady Henderson posted on ESPN yesterday, a 2026 Seattle Seahawk training camp preview. And he does a really good job going through a bunch of different topics and exploring some intriguing elements of this camp, the things that we're looking for from this team, the things that we hope to see. And there's a lot of good stuff in here, but there's one thing he said that I want to explore just a little bit here. So let's go through the article briefly here. Like I said, a lot of good stuff here. The Seahawks, not the most talked about team in their own division, despite being defending champions. Talks about Hard Knocks, talks about some of the players that left, and of course the coordinator that left. We know about that. So you can see that it's a pretty detailed look at the offseason we just had and the questions we have going into camp. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks, and he gives us 3 players to watch. We got Sam Darnold, mostly because of the new coaches, because Fleury, while he is installing a scheme similar to Kubiak, is doing things differently. Jake Peetz and Tyson Prince are also in new roles that are going to influence him in some way this year that he was not being influenced in 2025. Torrey Horton listed as a player to watch, which I find interesting because I don't know how much Horton's going to be able to get on the field. It kind of depends on Shaheed. But also remember, this Seattle offense doesn't use receivers at a very high volume. So I don't know how to feel about that. He does mention that, he caught a lot of touchdowns last year. The most interesting thing to watch for here is, first of all, does he start practicing tomorrow? Because if he doesn't get added on the PUP, that's obviously a really good sign. So that's interesting to watch. I don't know if I agree with making him one of the 3 players to watch. Then he mentioned Shaheed, which I think is a really good one. I'm excited about the Shaheed thing. Just talking about how taking the pressure off of JSN is going to be a significant element of this a season compared to last year, because I don't think you can sustain giving JSN that high a percentage of the targets. Key position battles, and this is the thing that kind of caught my attention here. Like, he talks about the safety position battle, which I've made videos about already. Talks about Igbenogany versus Julian Neal, although I don't find that to be overly compelling yet. Talks about Bradford and Stevens maybe competing. Talks about the Witherspoon contract. But this running back thing, let's talk about this a little bit. So last year, it was Walker and Zach Charbonnet splitting the touches. It looks like it'll be more of a 3-man committee this year as Seattle waits for Charbonnet to return from February surgery to repair a torn ACL. The Seahawks are high on George Holani and, by all appearances, plan to give him a good chunk of the work alongside number 32 overall pick Jadarian Price, but free agent pickup Emmanuel Wilson gives them a power runner. So it's that George Holani thing that I want to talk about a little bit here, because that would be it would be a significant boost to this team and their chances of having a really good regular season and repeating in 2026 if George Holani can be a significant part of it. So George Holani, we did see him a little bit these last couple of years. We saw him take important snaps last year in the playoffs because Charbonnet was hurt. But can we trust him over a bigger sample size? All right, guys, let's take a quick break here to talk a little bit about Prize Picks, currently the #1 sports pick app in America. The app is very easy to use. Check it out to my left here. You can do player picks, where you just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Or you can pick teams, where you pick winners, spread, or total on any game or fight. The app is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. Right now, they have a great offer. You can play your first $5 lineup and get $150 in lineups if you win. All you have to do is use code HMA when you sign up. It's a brand new offer. Best time possible to get on the app. So get on over there and get to winning that first lineup. So remember, Prize Picks, code HMA. Download the app today, and remember to always gamble responsibly. So George Holani, not a rookie or anything like that. We have some idea of what he can do because he's been on the team, but I mean, as we know, he also really hasn't had many opportunities, even with being on the team. Last year, he saw the most action that he has by a pretty good margin. Actually, scored a touchdown in the regular season. 22 rushes, 73 yards. A lot of it in garbage time, if we're being honest. Had a couple of catches. The thing that we really remember about Holani, I think, was in the postseason when he played a non-trivial number of snaps for Charbonnet. And I'm not saying that anything he did was over the top amazing. 5 carries, 10 yards, but 4 catches, 34 yards. He had 3 catches in the Rams playoff game. And there were a couple of plays here and there, even in the Super Bowl, where it felt like he made a play that changed that game, even if it's just a little bit. I remember right before halftime, he was in the game. He got either it was a short catch, a check down, or a carry, and he was able to actually make some nice moves to pick up extra yards on a drive that ended in a field goal. And there was a moment during that drive where it looked like maybe we weren't going to get points. And I thought Holani did a good job keeping the chains moving on that drive with 1 or 2 touches. And obviously, it's not that big of a deal. We didn't necessarily need that field goal to win that game because we won it by multiple scores, but still, it was something that did stand out to me a little bit. And right now, when you're talking about a player that has had as little action as Holani, I mean, we're talking about what, 28 career touches, and then 9 in the postseason. You're going to work with whatever little bit you have. But the thing that's kind of the thing that I keep coming back to with Holani is it just kind of feels like he's not really that good of a runner. It feels like he's more of a third down back. He's a guy who's meant to catch the ball out of the backfield and he's meant to block. And I think he is actually a pretty good blocker. He may even be our best blocker until Charbonnet gets back. So there's going to be a big role for him there. But as far as him with the ball in his hands, I don't really know if I see anything here that I'm all that enthused by. I think that he is just kind of okay at best with the ball in his hands. And even if the run blocking is improved, when I did my prediction series, I had him at like 3.8, 3.9 yards per carry and not really getting the ball that much. So when this sentence came down, or at least this segment of a sentence came down on the Henderson article, the Seahawks are high on George Holani and they plan to give him a good chunk of the work. Sounds like they're maybe a little bit more optimistic about where his career can go. And look, he's still young. He's only been in the league 2 years. He's barely had a chance to do anything. There's certainly an opportunity for him to become better than he's been. And one thing to keep in mind here when you're talking about Holani, he was a very notable player in college. And in 2022, for Boise State, he was their lead runner. He was their primary running back in a backfield with Ashton Jeanty. Now, Jeanty was much younger. Jeanty took over the starting role the next year, partially because Holani was hurt and missed a bunch of games. Regardless, though, it is worth noting that he was not just some random dude in college. He was a dude that actually took snaps and action and carries over Jeanty, who was borderline generational as a running back prospect. So there may be something more here that we just have not seen yet. So keep it in mind. And the thing that I think about when I look at something like this is trying to find value and positive contributions out of undrafted players, right? The Super Bowl team, the first Seahawks Super Bowl team, the Super Bowl 48, the Legion of Boom team, that was a team that was able to find value and help out of undrafted free agents, guys like Doug Baldwin most famously, but also Jermaine Kearse. And then a little bit later in that era, you had guys like Thomas Rawls and Deshaun Shedd. So even on a team that was loaded with primo talent, there was still a lot of finding diamonds in the rough. There was still a lot of locating guys who could help you win without having to spend a draft pick on him. Even somebody like a George Fant was undrafted, and he never was some amazing player for us, anything like that, and he was never a featured player, but he did play a role in that era of Seattle Seahawks football. So I look at this team, and you're seeing some of that same stuff as well. You got Ty Okada, you've got Drake Thomas, although we didn't pick him up out of UDFA, the Raiders did. We did pick him up off waivers, so it ended up being basically the same thing. We just picked up the contract after the Raiders gave it to him. So when you look at it, it's really hard to compete at the highest level and win Super Bowls without finding some value in UDFA. And I look at George Holani, and I look at the situation that we're in right now, where this team is clearly not where they want to be at running back, I would say. I know that they're high on Jadarian Price, and even if they are, I mean, I'm not begrudging them that, but this is not the backfield of their dreams, right? Last year they had Walker and Charbonnet splitting almost every snap in the backfield. Now both of those guys are gone for the time being. So finding a surprisingly good player like a plus EV player at George Holani in UDFA at this moment could be massive. That could spell the difference between a win and a loss in a game at some point. There's plenty of time between now and the time where Zach Charbonnet is going to be at full power. Zach Charbonnet may not be at the peak of his powers until December, January, or maybe even next year for all we know. He'll play, but he may not be himself. So George Holani, I think that I think that maybe there's something more than what I've been seeing here because, like I said, I've always viewed him as more of a pure third down back, but good opportunity for him. So what do you guys think? You think Holani's going to surprise us? You think Holani's going to bring some stuff to the table that we're currently not necessarily projecting? Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks.